Flag Man. He was the most patriotic correctional officer that you ever would have met until he wasn't. Because what he did ended in tragedy. It was literally a fall from grace. And this is the story on the Pen and the Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube. And that's right, by the end of this story, we're going to take a moment of silence for the correctional officer who's no longer with us, because this story is just that tragic. It's a story that I've been having in my back pocket for quite some time, but I never knew when I was going to say it because of the way that this story tragically ends. But in respect to a correctional officer who is no longer with us, I want to take a moment to, that's right, put on a patriotic cap as I tell this story about Flag Man. That's right, Flag Man, the most patriotic correctional officer there ever was in any correctional institution, anywhere. And I'm going to prove it to you throughout this video. So let's jump right into the story. We're in the dormitory in a prison called DeQuincy, Louisiana. That's where I'm located, and that's where I'm at. I'm in one of the bunks. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it had 6 or 7 rows of bunks inside this particular dormitory. It's a big open dorm. And in the middle of the bunk area was the TV area. And the TV was against the wall, and there were benches that goes with the TV. Well, past that is the area where they would play games and set up the spades table and the Scrabble table and all that. And after that was the table where the correctional officer sat with his back to the bathroom area, but he could see the whole dorm. Of course, he would have to stand up and look behind him to see the bathroom area, but he had a whole visual of the dorm. And then there was a key where another officer sat on side the bathroom. So the key officer actually had a view inside the whole bathroom area. So there's the officer who's in this dorm, and then there's the officer in the key. So they have each other's back. Anyway, there was this one correctional officer known as Flag Man. I don't remember his real name, but I'm going to tell you how he got the name Flag Man. He would come into the dormitory, do his count. Everybody has to do their count first and foremost. One shift change. He would do the count. He would get his count, get the count clear. And once the count was clear, before he cleared the dormitory to move around, he would set up his work area. He would have his lunch with him and his thermos, and he would set that on the desk, and he would clear the desk off. There's paperwork on the desk, and he would set the paperwork up accordingly. But after he did all that, inside of his bag, he would pull out a flag. This is like a little table-sized flag that's been sitting in my front yard for a while. That's why you see dirt on it. I didn't have another example to get. This was the only one. I keep it in my front yard, inside right by my driveway where everybody can see it because, of course, I love America. Anyway, he's got the flag, and he takes the flag every day, and he sticks it on his desk. And the flag sits on his desk, kind of like this. He's the only officer I ever seen who put a flag on his desk. And what made it so bad for other inmates when it came to Flag Man is that he was sympathetic toward the wrong inmates. And so he rubbed the other convicts the wrong way. He would always show, you know what I mean, sympathy towards some of the dudes who had those charges. You know the charges I'm talking about. In Louisiana prisons, they don't separate you. All those charges go in the same place. You know what I mean? You could be in a dorm with gangsters and people with them charges. There ain't no political gang structure in Louisiana. I've talked about this in my other videos. So he would show sympathy toward those dudes because sometimes dudes would pick on them dudes and bam, bat them in their mouth. And he would write the write-up always on the side of the person who had those charges. And he would make the other dude look bad, and the other dude would get rolled out and get time in the hole, catch the work and cell block, etc. So Flag Man was getting a bad reputation with the convicts. The convicts didn't like him. Of course, the people who needed protection, they liked Flag Man because his write-ups always reflected sympathy toward them. I don't know why he was sympathetic toward them, yet he was a patriotic American who also served in the military. That's right. Flag Man was a veteran. I don't know if he was a Vietnam veteran. That's right. I'm trying to remember what it was. He was an older dude. So he was a Vietnam veteran looking for something to do, and he got into corrections as a correctional officer. So anyway, I had this friend of mine, you know, my round. That's what they call your people who are from the same area that you're from. They call them your rounds because they're from around the way. So my round has this bright idea. He's going to start knocking the flag down. And so all the time, the flag would be sitting on the desk like this. And whenever Flag Man wasn't looking, when he walked around the key or he was shaking somebody down, and he would shake down, you know, convicts and give them a hard time. So he, like I said, he was really rubbing people the wrong way. Anyway, my partner of mine, Mike, he goes, finds the flag when flag man ain't looking, and he knocks it over. And that's why I knocked it over early in the video. Listen, it's an old flag. I get it. I don't disrespect American flags. I'm trying to tell a story, so calm down. You know what I mean? I know people sometimes panic when they see certain stuff on the YouTube channels. So he knocks the flag down. So flag man walks up there, and flag man picks the flag up, and he gets it, and he dusts it off. And we watching for the first time because my boy Mike says, watch this, I knocked that dude's flag down. And we all sitting there looking like this. And flag man's wiping it down, and he wipes it down. And he looks around, and he does a salute to the flag like this, you know? And he puts it back. And we're like, dang, he crazy, huh? And so he goes back about his business. And my boy Mike does this. Every single shift flag man works in this dorm, he knocks flag man's flag to the ground. And he got to the point to where he was starting to do it multiple times. Finally, one of them dudes rats on Mike, and flag man finds out that Mike been knocking his flag down. So flag man rides Mike out on a write-up, you know, destroying the property or whatever it was, the aggravated disobedience. And so Mike goes to the hole, and he's in the hole for knocking the dude's flag over. And of course, we all thought it was funny, so we ha-ha'd and kikied and laughed and got our giggles out of it. But we felt like flag man was a stiffler, so we didn't care. So flag man got what he deserved, you know. He wasn't that cool of a dude, you know. And he used to shake down. He was one of them dudes. I ain't gonna say he overly shook people down, but he shook people down like he was doing his job. He did it by the book. He was a by the book type of dude. And so when he shook me down a bunch of times, and he always had to get his quotas. Some of them officers come in the dorms, and they just want to pass their time like you. They don't feel like shaking you down. It's just like any other job. They just want to get through the shift, 12 hours, and go home. So some of them they say, open your locker. You open your locker. They look around. They say, lift up your mattress. You lift up your mattress, and they're like, you good, sign the paper, shake down. Well, flag man, he never did that. He always went by the book. You had to take every single thing out of your locker. He went through every single deodorant can. He went through all your food items. He dumped your honey buns out, looked in the box. He went underneath your mattress, unmade your bed, dumped your pillow out the pillowcase. And he was just a stiffler. He went through your shoes. He patted you down. So every time he came on the shift, you knew you was trying to dodge this dude from getting shook down. So the best way not to get shook down is not to be on your bunk area. So dudes will be in the TV room, taking a shower on a spades table, you know, or go on open dorm or go to a call out. Well, flag man, he got hip to the game. So he would just go get dudes literally when they in the shower. He'd start messing with dudes, be like, when you finish, I got to shake you down. Like, come on, flag man. Come on, flag man. You got me down bad, man. You hit me last shift, flag man. You ain't got to hit me 2 times in a row. You heard me? And flag man's like, I got to do my job. Got to do my job. As soon as you get out the shower, I'll meet you by your bunk. Full shakedown. And he'd mess with dudes like that, and dudes didn't like it. So anyway, flag man starts getting what they call ARP. That's where you can write up the correctional officer. That's right. In prison, you can file a grievance against a correctional officer or a staff member you feel is mistreating you in any kind of way. And so dudes will write those ARPs on flag man. And an ARP stands for Administrative Remedy Procedures. I had a cellmate one time. He loved writing ARPs, man. This dude write ARPs just to write one because he ain't had nothing better to do. I'm like, what you doing, bro? He's like, you know what I'm doing? A.R.P. I said, you don't miss them dots. He said, all 3 dots. I'm about to write an ARP. I'm like, what you writing an ARP on today? He said, I'm writing an ARP on the warden. He was writing ARPs on everybody. He didn't care. That's why he lived in the cell block. You know what I mean? Never got out. This was a working cell block. He'd make it to stage 2, 1 week, go back to stage 1. He was on permanent cell block. You know what I mean? Dungeon status forever because he wouldn't stop writing ARPs. Yeah, them people, they'll take action against you if they think you picking on them. They'll start picking back on you, and it never ends. Anyway, so flag man starts getting some ARPs because he's over shaking dudes down, and dudes don't like it. Well, the warden don't want no trouble neither. He's trying to keep things calm. So he wants an officer who's going to do their job, but he also has to show the inmates and the convicts that he's doing something about something if somebody's getting multiple complaints on him. And flag man was just getting too many complaints. Now, you get one dude to complain on you, the warden ain't going to do nothing. They're going to tell you, take your lick. But when you get, you know what I mean, 10, 15 dudes and they all write an ARP on the same person for the same thing, well, the warden's going to have to act. Because if not, it's going to go to the state capitol in Baton Rouge. And then they're going to come back and try to figure out what's going on. It's going to be a big deal. So the main thing that happens to a correctional officer who don't behave himself is they send him to the gun tower. That's right. the gun tower where they sit for 12 hours inside the tower, all the way at the top by themselves. Oh, man. So Flagman gets up in the gun tower. Well, once Flagman's working the gun tower, Flagman did not lose his flag. He brought his normal size flag with him. He put that inside the gun tower with him. But once he started working the gun tower, there's not flag poles on every single gun tower. The front of the prison has American flags and the state of Louisiana flags. That's it. They don't have them all throughout the prison. Well, Flagman felt like since he couldn't display his flag where everybody could see it, like when he was in a dormitory, he would bring a big flag with a flagpole. And he put that flagpole outside on the rail of the gun tower. So the gun tower had a big old flagpole, you know what I mean, with the flag hanging out it, and the gun tower was back here, and he had that flag on that gun tower. And well, Flagman, he cared more about that flag than he did his rifle. Dudes said they would see Flagman in there, he'd be dusting that flag off, and he'd stand there saluting to the flag, saluting to the flag. Well, one evening, everything goes completely bad in the prison. Prison shut down. All units shut down. Everybody gets rushed back to the dormitory. Prison's on lockdown. You can't move off your bunk. You got to get permission to go take a leak. And it stayed on lockdown for 3 hours. All we heard over the radio is that there was a tragedy and bodily injury, and they don't know if the person's going to make it. Come to find out, Flagman, it was during the nighttime. Nobody was even looking. He had his flag on the gun tower, and the flag got wrapped up from the wind. He leaned over and tried to fix the flag. And when he tried to fix the flag, he literally fell from the gun tower and hit the ground. If you know anything about a gun tower, they about, I don't know, 40, 50 feet in the air or more. You know, so 40, 50, 60 feet high. And so he's way up there. He fell out and he broke a lot of bones, man. And they rushed the dude to the hospital. So word on the compound is that Flagman fell out the gun tower. And so dudes are laughing about it. I remember I laughed about it. I thought it was funny because I was a convict and I was still an idiot. I hadn't changed my life completely yet. I was on that path. And I remember thinking he got what he deserved because of the way he treated people. But then I remember thinking later, you know what? I think I was wrong to feel that way. And that's why I want to sit here and say on this video that my attitude that day when I found out that a lot of dudes celebrate, you know, convicts celebrate when correctional officers get hurt sometimes. And not all the time. It's because there's beef that goes back and forth. And Flagman was a rough dude. He was a rough officer. You know, he was a stickler by the book. And I felt in my heart, you know, that he got what he deserved because he treated people that way. But the dude was just doing his job. And as a man, I'm saying on this video that I'm sorry, Flagman. I regret that moment of laughter where I thought he got what he deserved. You know, and it wasn't like me. Some dudes, they went all out. I wasn't bashing him or belittling his name. I just had this thing in me that said, you know what? He got what he deserved. That's it. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And I didn't feel bad about it. And now I feel bad about it. And I felt bad about it throughout a long time in my life. I've been feeling bad about it for, 25 years. And Flagman did not survive. He wound up succumbing to his injuries because he fell out that gun tower. And I just want to take a moment, if y'all can, man. I just want to say I'm sorry. And if you're a correctional officer and you watch this, I have respect for you. You know, I was a convict and I was still the type of person who wasn't a good person, but we change and we recognize the error in our ways. And I know that there's still a lot of things in me that have to change, but I've come leaps and bounds. And I want to take a moment of silence for Flagman. I'm going to stand up, y'all. Take my hat off. Just a moment of silence for Flagman. All right. Flagman, that's his story. And it's a tragic story. And it ended in tragedy. And I want to take a moment just to give a shout out to Flagman. Hopefully one day, Flagman, I see you in heaven and we can hang out together. And I don't know what goes on in heaven, but it's going to be, praising the Lord and whatever else happens up there. But I do hope that someday that I see him again. And I just, I don't want to take life for granted, y'all. We shouldn't take life for granted. Moral of the story is all life is precious. All life matters and all life means something. And just because somebody's doing their job and just because they make our life a little bit harder, even if we're on the other side of the law or you're on the side of the law and you feel that way toward convicts, there should be humanity in our hearts to where we have decency for one another, to treat one another with respect, whether we're convict or correctional officer. We got to stop the foolishness, y'all. It's not us versus the cops and the cops versus us. We're all humans and the cops have a job to do. And reality is, if you was in prison, you put yourself in prison, but that don't mean you should get mistreated in prison neither. So correctional officers, if you watch this, treat people with respect and they're going to treat you with respect. Man, thanks for watching the Pen and the Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed the story about Flagman, and I hope you give me a like and subscribe and go check out my other videos. Dun, 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 dun.